Let's say you're out in the wild and you found a beautiful upholstered piece that you love, but you don't know whether to bring it home or not. In this chapter, I'm gonna teach you how to inspect it, how to tell how old it is, how to tell if it's of good quality construction, and possibly who made it. I'm also gonna teach you the basics of how to clean an upholstered item before you bring it into your house. By an upholstered piece, I mean a couch or any fabric-covered furniture. A lot of people are hesitant to buy a vintage upholstered piece, and couches in particular, just because someone's used it before and it's a heavily used piece and they're worried about bringing it into their home. They'd rather just buy something new. But I want to convince you that an old couch is usually better made than any new couch that you can find. And if you find one that's of good quality construction, it's worth the investment to get it reupholstered in the way that you like and have a really unique, beautiful piece that's both clean and quality and hopefully a good deal. For example, I found this chair out shopping and the upholstery was in really rough condition. But when I turned it over, I could tell that it was a really high quality chair. You can see that this swivel mechanism is made of super heavy solid wood. It's all joined together by very old nails that I can tell were hand nailed into the piece. So I knew that it was both old and it was of really high quality. So even though the chair's upholstery was in terrible condition, and it was only $20, so I knew it was worth the investment to make it new again. So let me tell you my favorite details about this chair that really make it a unique piece. I love the channel tufting in the back. The fact that I can tell that there are springs in the cushion, and when you sit down in it, you really sink down into it to make it a very comfortable chair. When I twist it like this, it doesn't squeak. It's a really smooth swivel, and it just feels like a super solid chair. My kids even like walk on top of this part and jump from chair to chair in the living room, and we've had it for 2 years, and it's still, not falling apart. So in my book, that's a good chair. I really like the channel tufting in the chair right here, and by tufting, I mean when an upholsterer sews these little poofs or lines to give it more interest. It can be lines like this. It can be buttons like we have in the front of the chair. That's what tufting is. Tufting isn't easy to do, so when you see something that has really good quality tufting like this that's intact, you know that that's a sign of a good quality piece as well. I paid $300 about for labor and new fabric, and so for $320, I got a chair that's of super high quality, and it looks like a lot of chairs I see in new stores for 3 or 4 times the price. Okay, I love this chair, but let's go get another piece, and I'm gonna use that to show you how to find the maker's mark on a piece of upholstered furniture. Let's say you're at a store and you find a really cool piece like this. The first thing that you should do is look for a maker's mark or a label. The most common place to find one is right under the cushion. And that's where this one is. You can see it sewed in, and you can even tell by the label that it's an old brand. It's like an old print. So let's say you see a label and you don't know what it means. You've never heard of that brand before. That's okay. That's just a starting place for researching. You can look up what the company is and what other vintage items sell for online that are of this label. In this case, this is a very famous Texas company, Masad Furniture, and it's one of the first versions of Masad Furniture. And I know just by looking at the label that this is a really high quality piece from a very high quality manufacturer. If you don't see a label sewed into a seat cushion like this chair, a lot of times it can be underneath, so just look for a label underneath the chair. And in rare circumstances, you can find it sewed into the seams, usually in the back seam over here or in one of the arms. Let's say there is no label. You look everywhere, there's no label. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad chair. It's just that by finding a label, it's a quick way to figure out quality without having to inspect the rest of it. But a lot of times there's no label because somebody has reupholstered a furniture piece before, and when the reupholsterer put the new fabric on, they didn't add another label. Okay, we saw the label. I know the brand, so I could tell that it's a quality piece just from the label, but there are also other indicators of quality that we can inspect on this chair. And like always, we turn it over. I've ripped out the batting on the back, like I always do, the black batting that goes over here, and I can tell that these are sinuous springs. which is a good quality suspension system for a chair. Right here, I can tell that the strings were hand tied together, which you don't see very often anymore. This indicates both that it's a little bit older chair and that it was well made. And then if you look really deep into the chair, you can see the type of wood that was used to construct the frame. And in this case, I can tell that it's solid wood. You really want to look out for anything that's made with a cheaper quality particle board or some kind of thin MDF. Now I'm going to get another piece to show you how to inspect a piece of upholstered furniture if it doesn't have a label like this one does. Okay, so let's say you find a beautiful upholstered piece like this. This is a great example of something that might need a little bit of work, but if it has great quality and great bones, it's worth the investment to make it shine again. So let me walk you through what you do if you see something like this and you want to know whether it's of good quality. When inspecting any vintage item, you want to first look at the condition, look for a maker's mark. This one doesn't have one, even though I looked all over. Try and figure out how old it is. I love this old fabric. It definitely shows signs of wear. It's a little bit dirty, but there aren't any rips and tears, which is always a good thing. If you look down at the leg, it's a huge bummer, but the front of that wooden leg has chipped off a little bit, and that's actually a pretty expensive repair when the leg is connected to the frame of the sofa, like it is here. When I look underneath the cushion, I see that there aren't any big stains or rips or anything that tells me it's faded over time, which is another indicator that it is in pretty good condition for its age. One hilarious part of trying to figure out if it's in good condition is smelling the upholstered piece, which I always do. I could be in a thrift store or a flea market, but you just gotta give it a good whiff and see if it smells like old smoke or anything that smells like someone has tried to clean it with some weird cleaning product. An old dusty smell that just comes with all furniture when it's old, that's really easy to get rid of. I would never be afraid of that. But sometimes people try and clean an item with like a weird lemony chemical smell, or try and cover up smoke stains with some sort of chemical product, and that is just really hard to get out without reupholstering the whole piece. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is check the weight. This is super heavy for its size. If you pick up something and it's super light for its size, I would say that's very suspicious and probably not good quality. We're also going to look at the cushion, just give it a feel, see if it's comfortable. I can tell just by touching this that there's a down insert inside here, which down is like a feather insert, and that's a really high quality, really comfortable seat cushion that's in a lot of really good quality pieces. So I always like to unzip it as well, if it has a zipper. This one does. It's a little metal zipper. Which tells me that this is, although it is an antique style couch, it has antique elements to it. It's not quite an antique piece. I would guess by the quilting and this zipper alone, it's probably from the 1940s. There's a nice down cushion. If you hit it, you'll see all the little feathers fly out of it. There aren't very many feathers flying out of it, which is good. But if we wanted to make this couch like new again, we'd want to have the upholsterer rewrap this so that feathers don't fly out of it like they are now. But we can reuse the same cushion. So that's a very inexpensive fix, and it indicates that it's a good quality sofa. Okay, so it's heavy, it's a nice cushion. It doesn't squeak or twist too much when I try and tear it apart, which is always great. My kids could probably jump on the back of this sofa and it won't fall apart. And to me, that's my level of, is it a good sofa? So this one is in pretty good condition from what I can tell up here. The next thing I'm gonna look at is the bottom of the sofa. Now I do this all the time, even if I'm at a store. Don't be afraid to churn a piece over and look underneath the hood. It's how you can tell the real character of a piece of furniture. And what I'm gonna be looking for is two things mainly. I'm gonna look at the frame of the sofa, what was used to construct the frame, and if the frame is intact, and I'm gonna look at what type of suspension was used on the sofa. All right. So this is called the batting, a piece of furniture. It's super inexpensive. A lot of times in older pieces, it's already kind of falling off. So I'm gonna tear the whole thing off to show you what it looks like. If you're in a thrift store and you just see batting like this, you can always just tear off a little edge and peek through like I did right there. I do it all the time. It's really important when you're buying a piece to know what it is. And it's really easy to just staple it back on. So don't feel like you're ruining a couch by peeking underneath the hood. So it looks old, doesn't it? This is called the weave, okay? And this part in the middle is called the suspension. I think that that's what is the most important determinant of comfort in any seat or sofa is the suspension. And this in the middle right here is a suspension. This wood underneath the fabric here and these legs that are an integral part of it, that is called the frame. So obviously this is older. This is burlap or jute weaving, and it's 1, 2, 3 triple layer weaving. So I know that it's of really good quality. It goes in a little bit at the center. I think it's supposed to do that. That's not a defect, and it's held together with tacks like these, which are very old. Oh wow, these are so cool. These are very old tacks. They're not machine or mass manufactured tacks. They're old upholstery tacks, and they have lots of little imperfections on them. When I look through the little squares of this weave, I can see that there are metal springs. So it's really easy to just peek in and see what's underneath. Sometimes there'll be sinuous springs that look like an S, and sometimes there'll be bouncy springs like the springs on the inside of a mattress. And that's what we have here. Now, what this is called in the upholstery world is 8-way hand-tied springs suspension. And that is the creme de la creme of really high quality suspension for seating. So on a modern coil mattress, it's individual springs that are on a metal frame, and they're all connected to each other. It's all one big continuous piece. As opposed to here, these are individual springs that are hand tied together with actual string. I mean, it looks like a little jute string that's woven in between the springs. Very few current manufacturers make 8-way hand-tied springs. And that's why something like this that's quality and well-made is real treasure. So if you find a piece of furniture that you love that has a high-quality suspension system like this that's really hard to find these days, it's worth the money you're gonna spend investing in it to make it like new again. Now let's look at the frame. In some chairs, you can see the frame better than in this one. This frame is upholstered, so it's underneath all of this batting, but it's obvious that it's hardwood because we know it's a very old sofa. But even if you just tuck it up a little, you'll see this very thick hardwood, and I know that it's solid wood because I can see the wood grain going all the way through. It's not cracked in any place, otherwise you'd hear creaking. And it's held together with nails and not staples. If you find under here a wood frame that's made of particle board or a very thin MDF, and instead of nails, it's held together with really small staples, then you know that it's a cheaply made chair or couch, and it probably won't last a very long time. So I'm sure you know what solid wood looks like, but if you don't know what bad wood looks like, it looks like this. It's a really thin, you can kind of feel that it's wafy. It's not even plywood. It's just a really thin particle board. It feels super light. And you can tell that if any water gets on it or moisture, it starts to buckle like this one does here. And that's the problem when a chair is made out of cheap wood like this, is that anytime you put a nail through it or a big staple, or if there's any sort of moisture, it starts to crack. And that's why I always see on the curb a lot of newer cheap couches, and they have arms that are sinking in or just like totally sunk in the bottom. I can tell just by looking at it that the inside was made out of wood like this and not out of wood like this. Okay, so there are a lot of things that I like about this piece of furniture. It's in decent condition. It does need a little bit of fixing, but the suspension is really good. The frame is in really good condition. I can tell that it's an older sofa, but still in really good condition, which tells me that it's probably gonna last a few decades more. So I know that this is one of those pieces that, if I love, is really worth investing the money to make it new again. Now, if I'm at the store and I found this and I decided I want it, before I bring any piece into my house that's upholstered, I give it a quick clean to sanitize it, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. Really, the most important step of cleaning is what we did before. We inspected underneath it, and I saw that there was no dirt or crumbs or insects or anything underneath that would give me pause. And we looked under the cushion, there aren't any huge stains. So that's the first part of cleaning, is actually just inspecting it to see what you're gonna be cleaning. The second step is vacuuming. Just a simple handheld vacuum. Make sure to vacuum underneath the whole thing too, and the back and all the corners. And then you're gonna get a handheld steamer. It doesn't have to be an expensive steamer, just a handheld steamer, and steam clean every little nook and cranny, and that will sanitize it. It also takes away a lot of smells, if there are any smells lingering on the upholstery. And then the best trick is to get a water bottle with a mixture of vinegar and water, lightly spritz the whole entire thing, and leave it out in the sun to dry. Once you do this, you can bring it into your house. There will be no musty smells, it'll be clean and sanitized, and you'll be able to use the upholstery as is. Let's take a look at one last piece. First, it might look like a grandma chair. Might not look like much, but if you look closer, it has such a cool shape. Notice the scallops on the top, and I know the fabric is in kind of rough condition, but it's such a great shape and it's a good solid chair. So let's use our imagination. Let's say you don't like skirted chairs. Let's take a look at the bottom of this chair. It's really easy to just take the skirt off of a chair or a couch. Just look underneath, see what the legs look like. In this chair, there is actually upholstered legs underneath, which is a really cute detail. And if you look where the skirt goes, it's upholstered right underneath. So all we have to do is cut this little seam right here, and we'll have a really cute, more modern looking chair. Granny chair, modern chair. It's really as simple as that, and it can work for couches and chairs. So always look under the skirt. I'm gonna show you how to do it real quick. I'm going to use a box cutter because I'm just going to be cutting the seams right underneath here. This right here is called a tacking strip. It's just cardboard and staples, and that's what they use to put the skirt on top of the upholstery piece, so I'm just gonna take out the staples. Oh, there. It looks a lot different, doesn't it? It looks a lot more modern, and the details really, like the arms look totally different without the skirt there, doesn't it? So I just want to use a chair like this to show you. So when you find a vintage piece that you love, don't be afraid to turn it over, to pick it up, to shake it around, to check to see if it's good quality, and know that you can easily clean it before bringing it to your home, and don't be afraid to get creative with it.